Welcome to Peaking to Success, the podcast that delves deep into our guest success stories, the highs, the lows, the lessons learned, and if there's any exciting future plans lined up. Talking about future plans, Peaking into Success is proudly supported by Peak Wills and Estate Planning. We're here to support you with any future planning. Long gone are the times of solicitors in suits and ties and dark rooms and outdated practices. We are proud to offer a fresh and dynamic approach to the stuffy old world of wills, changing the way we talk about what happens when we die. But that's enough talk about death on a podcast introduction. It's time to pass you over to Peaking into Success host, Mr. Adam Kahn. Whose success are we peeking into this episode, Adam?
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 34 of the podcast. Today we have on a man that is the artistic director and CEO of Deda, as well as the creator of Derbyland. We have on Steve Slater.
The Bless is open every day from 12 p.m, serving a wide range of beers, ciders, real ales and spirits. Their kitchen also provides handmade pizzas, loaded nachos, chicken strips and ice cream from 5:50 to 10:30 Monday to Thursday and 12 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Friday, Saturday and Sunday. The pub quiz is very popular with anyone that enjoys a good beer and a bit of a laugh with their mates. Taking place every Wednesday at 9 p.m, there's loads of prizes to be won, including £50 drinks vouchers for the winners and a bottle of wine for the best team name. Everyone's a winner. They also have a spacious function room available to hire that can hold up to 100 people. Wow, that's a lot. Perfect for birthday parties, work events, weddings and wakes. The Bless really comes to life at the weekends with their branded nights of Stone Love and Fully Loaded, where the DJs play alternative, indie and rock music spanning the generations until the early hours of 2 a.m. There really is something for everyone in what is arguably Derby's best pub.
So, hello Steve, how are we today?
I'm good. I'm a bit tired, to be honest. But then I think everyone that works in the arts is probably a bit tired. It's been a sort of a long haul for the past few years with the pandemic and everything. So and recovery and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I feel a little bit tired on a Friday morning. Yeah. Looking forward to the weekend.
100%. If people didn't know what you did, how would you explain it in a nutshell?
Okay. What I do or what Deda does?
Firstly you, and
okay.
Then we can move on to Deda.
Yeah, okay. So I'm artistic director and CEO of Deda, which means I'm the boss. I run the organisation. I've been at Deda for just over 3 years, 3.5 years now. I came in literally at the start of the pandemic, the same week as we went into lockdown. So that was all quite testing, particularly as I didn't know anybody here.
Yeah.
It was. It's been interesting times. I was born in Derbyshire, and I grew up here in Matlock Bath and Cromford, and
yes.
And then left in the 80s to go to art school, and stayed away mostly until 3 years ago when I came back.
Nice.
Yeah.
So of course you mentioned Deda there. Kind of firstly, what drew you to the position to come at Deda,
Yeah.
and then following on, what is Deda?
Okay, what drew me? That's a good question. I've spent my career working in the arts, and as you do, you kind of you rise as you progress. I'd run a number of projects and organisations in the past, mostly in Scotland, which is where I ended up living for a big chunk of my life. And I think I was looking for another challenge,
Okay.
So I think one of my strengths is leadership, and I was looking for a leadership role somewhere, and it just so happened that the role here was being advertised at a time when I was coming out of another 6-month job that I had in Ipswich with a festival down there, and it just sort of tied in time-wise, and I applied for it.
Nice.
And that's how I landed here, and why, I guess. It was the right job at the right time for me. And Deda itself, Deda is the Centre for Dance, Movement and Creativity in Derby. So our focus is primarily dance and dance movement, circus, any kind of physical creative activity that takes place. We tend to do it here. My background was fine art initially. My training is in fine art as an artist, but I became more and more involved with live art, performance over the years, and that led to me programming a lot of dance for many years in Glasgow. I ran a big venue there called Tramway, which is a big converted industrial tram shed on the south side of the city in Glasgow, and we did a lot of local Scottish dance, but also a lot of international dance companies performed there. So over the years, I've gravitated towards a more dance-focused kind of way of working.
Nice.
Although I'm not a dancer, so, which is interesting.
So, of course, you've mentioned what kind of is Deda. So, if someone wanted to come into your building, what would you offer them?
Well, a huge amount of things are offer here. We have a 124-seat theatre. We have 4 dance studios. We have a gallery space on the walls of the building. We have a lovely cafe bar. We have meeting spaces. We house and we are homes to the University of Derby's MA in choreography.
No.
So that's something that happens here. We're also the home to Hubbub Theatre Company, and from September we're also the home of Anjali Dance Company as well. So both Hubbub and Anjali are learning disabled companies. So they basically support and provide theatre and dance for learning disabled dance practitioners and theatre practitioners, and they create amazing work, and they're based in the building.
Nice. So, of course, you've explained what you offer and what Deda is. Kind of, if you could sum up in a couple of words, what is the kind of vision of Deda going forward?
The vision is changing, as it should. The vision has to be in step with what's going on around it. So we want to reflect the community in Derby and the people of Derby and what they do and feel and like. So what I've tried to do over the past 3 years is open up Deda really and make it a space that anyone can feel comfortable in, rather than it being a kind of a space that is purely for people who want to dance. You can come in and, if you just want to come in for a coffee or a bite to eat, that kind of just social activity. You can come in and maybe bring your laptop in and do some work in the afternoon in the cafe. If you want to hire the space for a birthday party or a party or any kind of event, you can do that as well. The kind of day-to-day activity is primarily dance classes, so we do a huge variety of different types of dance class on a daily basis. We work in schools, so we take those classes out to schools, and we work with young people in the schools. we present a very interesting and eclectic program of theatre, dance, and other performance types in the theatre. We also put on music, live music, DJs, spoken word poetry in the cafe. So there's a huge amount of different kinds of events. I mentioned there's an exhibition program that kind of rotates through the year. At the moment, we've got this great exhibition by a group called Art Space, who were embedded in the building for like 3 months earlier in the year, and they generated a lot of original artwork, based on their experience of just being in the building, either sitting in dance classes and drawing the people in the class, or sitting in the cafe and drawing and painting people in the cafe, or staff working, So it's a very vibrant and kaleidoscopic picture that we paint here, and I want that to be very much part of the community, and community with a capital C, I guess. There's lots of different communities within that, but that anyone can feel free to walk in, spend time here, meet their friends, find opportunities to connect with others, or find an opportunity to present what they do in some ways. So I want it to be as open as possible, almost as if the walls are invisible, and that people can just kind of see in, and we can see out. And I think that's really important, that because it's still a challenge to reach people, and I think after the pandemic, where we all kind of closed down and closed in on ourselves, and there's still that very much out there, that feeling that why bother, I can just sit in the house and watch TV and whatever. Our job is to try and get people to get out of their doors, get them moving, get them doing something, get them meeting other people, get them socialising, get their endorphins pumped, and making people happy, really. So there's a lot of joy in what we do here.
100%. And I mean, what you've explained, that I didn't know the full extent of what Deda did, and kind of the amount of kind of fingers in pies that you have.
Yeah,
per se.
That's just the building. I mean, we're also the team. The team here is also the team behind Fest Day. So Fest Day is a citywide festival. Happens every last weekend in September. So there's one coming.
Yes.
That's a huge undertaking for us in terms of transforming the city over a couple of days. There's going to be aerialists hanging from buildings, and dance and music and food, and all kinds of activities on the streets. From Cathedral Green to the Market Square and up towards the Spot, and here on Chapel Street, we've got this other thing. Sorry, I'm going to ramble here.
No, that's fine.
We've got another offer which is called Altered Streets, which is a project that was born out of the pandemic, because we couldn't work indoors. We were trying to use our skills that we have with Fest Day to do more stuff outdoors.
Okay.
And out of that came this project called Altered Streets, where we close off Chapel Street. We've done I think 4 this year already, and there's a 5th one at Fest Day itself, where we'll block off Chapel Street, and for that one we're going to put in a big roller skate park. So there's all kinds of things, tubes and ramps and things going in on the street.
Nice.
For that Saturday of Fest Day. So we do way more than people think, actually.
No, 100%. I think people just see the events like Fest Day and don't put the company to the event. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's nice to see how much you do actually provide to kind of the community as a whole in Derby. And I guess it leads me on to say, of course, Derbyland, and how that's kind of grown, and how that's kind of brought a bigger emphasis to not just yourselves, but to other creative spaces around Derby. So kind of who was the creator of Derbyland, and how has it grown since your initial concept?
Derbyland is a bit of a pet project for me personally. I think it was born out of a little bit of frustration, and I guess I love working with people. I love collaborating with others as individuals or as organisations. So one of the joys for me is being able to work with, say, Quad or Derby Theatre or Art Corps or Baby People or the museums. There's but they were there's a kind of, I won't say hierarchy, but there's a kind of group of bigger organisations in the city. Most of them are NPOs, which is the Arts Council fund a number of us and support us, which is fantastic. But there's a lot more organisations and individuals in the city than that. And I think my frustration was that we don't see them enough, and we don't really get a clear picture of or a full picture of the vibrancy of the arts sector in the city. And I think that's where Derbyland came from. Derbyland was a kind of born out of how do we get to see all this great stuff, on one page, and so, and it's a sort of tongue-in-cheek thing as well, Derbyland, because a lot of people go, oh, Derby's rubbish, what's this shit? There's nothing going on in Derby, actually there is. It's just difficult to see sometimes. It sort of just drops below the radar or something, or physically it's difficult to get to because the ring road kind of intersects journeys and things like that if you're on foot and stuff like that. So creating a map of Derbyland was a solution to that for me. I'm a very visually driven person. I like to be able to look at something and go, oh, that's where we are, that's where we sit in relation to all this other stuff that's going on. I'm really pleased with how it's been embraced by everybody, and it's the trick is that I don't want it to feel as if it's Deda, behind it. I think it needs to feel independent to an extent, and that it can be for everybody, and that everyone can own it in some way. I think what's lovely about it is it's opened up doors, and conversations have started between lots of different elements on the map, and opportunities are starting to bubble up because of it. And I think we just need to see ourselves as a unified force in the city, and we're all working towards the same thing. We're all struggling, we're all hard pressed and working hard to make what we do seen and valued, and we're all trying to express ourselves. So Derbyland is if you like is that kind of in map form to an extent, but it's also something that kind of like, if it as a symbol, you don't necessarily have to understand that it's a cultural thing. You could buy a T-shirt with Derbyland on it and go, just go to the football, and you can be part of Derbyland because you're from Derby, and it's it's a love of the city as much as it is a love of the arts, and I think that's what I like about it. I'm a big fan of merchandise, so we've got lots of nice things like badges and T-shirts. We're going to hopefully be doing a new version of the T-shirt for Pride Month. Nice. So that will have like a lovely rainbow Derbyland. I'm really excited by those little things, and it's like fantastic, and it's just seeing it out there is great, so I'm loving it at the minute.
Nice. And I mean, with Derbyland, is there any room for evolution? So maybe, as you said, bringing all the creative spaces and cultural spaces onto a map.
Yeah.
Is there room for expansion, maybe for collaborations for everyone involved on the map to create kind of a piece of work that can show off Derby in a whole? Is that kind of the venture?
That's definitely a possibility. I mean, that would be amazing if there was some kind of Derbyland festival at some point, or an event which was Derbyland. I mean, it's kind of small steps, it's to see, money's always a big issue, in trying to, because all of this costs, trying to make, scrape together a budget to print something, print a few t-shirts and badges and stickers and stuff like that. It's like constant, if we can sell some of the t-shirts, then that funds another iteration of the map, or it helps support it. It's basically there's no profit in this. It's basically about getting more out. If we can sell more t-shirts, if we can sell more tote bags, then that money goes directly back into the Derbyland pot to make more stuff. I mean, interestingly, the whole thing started out as a conversation about doing a tea towel. We could do a Derbyland tea towel. We still haven't done the Derbyland tea towel, so maybe we need to do the Derbyland tea towel and get that done. And so we can go, we've done the Derbyland tea towel. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think I'd love more involvement from the if you like I call them the members on the map. The 27 locations we have earmarked on this current map. We're updating for a new version.
Okay.
That hopefully will be out September time, and we're trying to also launch a digital version of the map. So there'll be a website which will allow us to expand the borders of the map, because we're constrained inevitably by the size of the map. We could make it sort of smaller, but then it makes it sort of almost unreadable, to put everybody on.
Yeah.
So there are organisations and locations that we can't get on this map because they're outside of the boundaries of the map that we're at the scale we're working on.
Yeah.
So if we can get a digital version up and running, it means we can expand that map and look at other areas of Derby, to the south, the city centre and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which we're aware of, is that we're aware it aren't on the map.
Yeah.
But we want on the map, or we want on a version of the map.
That makes sense.
So we're hoping to do that, and there's a few other things we're planning as well, which hopefully we haven't got a date for it yet, but we might do a kind of an event in the city centre at the City Lab space for a week, and hopefully that will be a kind of exhibition of the drawings. So even the map is complex in that we commissioned a graphic artist called Carl Flint, who goes back with me many years. We worked on a fanzine together back in the early 1980s in Chesterfield, called the Toy Town Times, for anybody out there that has a copy sitting in a cupboard somewhere. We worked on that when we were on Foundation at Chesterfield. And lo and behold, I ran into Carl again a year or two ago after a long period of not seeing him, and he just started work at Derby University, teaching on the graphics course. So I invited Carl to do the drawings for the Derbyland. So he went off and went to all these different locations and kind of drew these kind of caricatures of the different venues and different locations. So he's working currently on a new version, so we've got him kind of scribbling away in his studio on some new locations, some new ones that we missed off, or ones that we can't get on the physical map, but will go on the digital map.
Nice. Okay.
So it's there are upgrades in play at the moment for Derbyland, and some nice new stuff coming as well. So
great.
It's good.
And if people wanted to grab any of the merchandise or a map, for example, where would you advise them to go?
Well, the maps are, or should be, at all the locations that are on the map. We try to get them to a bundle to everybody because they're free, and we've just given them to everybody. So the maps you can usually pick up, and if they've run out, then I'd ask people to tell us, and we can top them up.
Yeah.
At Deda, you can grab the maps. We've got some badges, stickers, and we've obviously got T-shirts. So the T-shirts you can buy online.
Yeah.
So if you go to currently, because we haven't got the Derbyland website, standalone website up and running yet, there's a page on the Deda website. You can visit that and you can buy the Derbyland T-shirts and the totes directly from us online, or you can come in and buy them here. They're like 15 quid, and I think 6 quid for the totes. So you can get them there. There's a couple of places in town. Canopy sell a few of the T-shirts.
Yes.
And I might take some down to Threads, Danny in Threads.
Oh yeah.
And see if he wants to flog a few for us. But it's about it's all of that is about profiling it and getting the word out there. That this is a thing, and it's a nice, fun thing. Derby could be, if we get it all right, and we all, culture is embraced and supported, we could be an amazing city. We are an amazing city, and Derbyland could be a lovely way of, framing that, if you like, as a really creative space for people to live and work and spend their social time.
No, 100%, and I think you're kind of onto a good concept, and hopefully it'll grow, and with the digital format and everything we've got planned, hopefully we'll kind of unite everyone in Derby together.
Yeah.
I was now going to ask you kind of your career high, so reverting back to you. What do you see as your career high?
That's an interesting one. I'm loving being here, I have to say that, but I am loving being here. I think we've done some great work here over the past 3 years just to get through the pandemic. So this is, I guess, surviving the pandemic and hopefully surviving the cost of living crisis and everything that entails in terms of just running a building is hugely stressful. That will be a career high if we make it through that. I guess career high. I mean, I'm pretty old now, so I've got quite a lot of highs. There's a weird one, and this sounds weird, but when I worked at Tramway in Glasgow, I commissioned a lot of stuff. But one of the things that's lasted the longest is I commissioned a garden at the back of the building on a derelict part of the site, which was transformed into a community garden for the local area called the Hidden Garden. And I went back a few weeks ago because I was up in Scotland visiting, and I went into the building, as you do. Always feel like a bit of a ghost in an old building that you used to run. And I went through into the garden at the back, and it was amazing to see how much everything had grown for a start. And I just thought, this is a nice legacy. To have done something like that, had a small part in enabling something lasting to take shape in a city and is appreciated by people. You don't even know who you are in a sense, or what role you played, but you can just sit in that garden and go, wow, people are really enjoying that. And that's a bit of a high for me, I think, as a career high. But there's a lot of other problems that I could ramble on about, but I have to say this has been a big one for me in terms of this organisation isn't as big as some I've worked for, but there's a great team here. There's a great sense of community. The energy is very positive here, and I think the work we've done just in all pulling together through the pandemic and very difficult times to emerge and be as vibrant and positive with our programs as we are being is a big high for me.
100%. I mean, it's nice that you focused on yourself personally as well as the work you're doing now, is of course everything you've mentioned earlier on shouldn't be overlooked as a kind of massive achievement. You've kind of brought a whole sense of community to, I hope you don't mind me saying, to a street in Derby that doesn't really have a lot going on. It's got kind of you, a car park, and the Bless.
Yeah, but there are, there's, I mean, the plans are a long way from ever being formalised, but there's a lot of talk about transforming this part of Derby, the northern quarter, the northern gateway, as it's being called, and we have to be ready for that if and when it ever happens. It's like at the moment we're just on the cusp of we've just submitted an expression of interest to the Arts Council. Whether or not we get it or not, I don't know, but we would like to transform over the next couple of years the ground floor of this building. So the idea, the core idea is to put a new entrance into the building.
Okay.
So if people are aware of Derby, of Deda, they'll know they come in through the kind of Edwardian red brick entrance and sort of turn the corner and you're into the building sort of thing inside. And it's a bit indirect the way in, and it's a little bit difficult for people who don't know the building to enter and feel that they can. It's like, do I have permission to be in this building? And what I really want to do is just put a big new entrance that takes you straight into the cafe. So if we do that, we can then redesign the cafe, make it much more of a cafe bar in the real sense, so that at night time it's much more part of the Flower Pot and Bless kind of bar culture.
No.
So you can just come in and get a drink and food and things and not worry about going to see a show or taking part in a class. You can. And equally, if you you've been to see a show or you've been at a class and you come out in the evening, you might come in as you're leaving. You've got you might find yourself in the middle of a gig or a poetry recital or a musician or a DJ. And you might go, let's hang around, let's stay. So the idea is that all of our programs interconnect, so that you can come in for one thing and you might find you've experienced 2 or 3 others by the end of the evening. That's the dream. You know? And I think if that happens, the building is then ready for any changes that might happen around us. I mean, I would love Chapel Street to be pedestrianised. If the car park eventually closes, or because it's the oldest car park in Derby. If that is ever demolished or then I would argue with this with the council that ideally Chapel Street is a pedestrianised space, and that would mean we could put tables and chairs outside in the summer, directly outside our new entrance into the cafe, landscape it, put more trees in, make it a space that you want to walk down rather than it being a kind of one of those rat run type streets that people are making a shortcut to the carriageway. That for me is the kind of long-term dream, is that Deda sits in a much more kind of people-centred part of the city. That, as you walk in, you can walk in over the bridges, or from the university, or from the college, and it's a destination. You want to come here because actually there's some cool stuff going on, and you can sit outside and have a drink and sit in the sunshine, and it's all good, and you're not having traffic whizzing past you all the time, But we'll get there eventually.
100%.
Yeah.
My next question is kind of a more kind of deeper question, as you'd like to say. So if you take yourself back to your younger self, firstly, what's one piece of advice you'd give to yourself? And secondly, would you do anything differently that's got you to this point now?
Good questions. Would I do anything different? There's a few things I would do differently in my in my personal life. I don't think so in my professional life. I mean, I've been lucky, but I've also been quite driven in terms of my determination to work in the arts industry. I had no training to do this. I trained as a visual artist, painter, fine artist. And it was just that I enjoyed organising things, got me into a few, part-time jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
Luck played a part in terms of who I bumped into and who I knew. They offered me jobs and things like that, and you slowly become, who you are, I guess. So, and what was the second question?
It was one piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self.
Not to give up. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's about seeing the opportunities and going for them. I was at school. I was good at art. I was good at drawing and painting.
Yeah.
But no one ever told me that there was a thing called art school. And it's so I left school at 16 with a couple of qualifications in subjects like English and history. I ended up working in the quarry at Cromford, and but I got into music. I was listening to I got into punk and stuff like that, and I got into I got into a band, and I was doing the posters. I was literally doing the posters, and one of the other band members said, "You should go to art school." And I was going, "What is art school?" So I had to then. There's pre-internet. I had to look in the yellow pages, find out whether there was an art school. There was one in Chesterfield that did a foundation course. I had to get on the bus and do that, and they were really supportive. I didn't have a portfolio. They let me sit at the back of classes and for free and draw and compile a portfolio, so I could then apply. It took me about a year. Okay. So it's I had to be really determined that was something that was something I really wanted to do. I was a bit lost, and I needed a direction and something to hang on to, and art was that thing, and that's sustained me for all of my life, really. But I didn't have a plan. I just kind of did one thing, and it led to another thing, and then that led to another thing, and to another thing.
Yeah.
So I think. Yeah, you have to be determined, I think, and I'd say to my younger self to stay determined, and I can't imagine doing anything else, actually.
No, that's nice, and it's nice that kind of you found out about the art school and then never looked back. Does that make sense? You've kind of seen, I like the creative aspect of life, and kind of pushed on. Yeah, your role may have changed, but kind of you've always sought creativeness, which is nice. You could have gone to the art school and been like, right, I'm back to the quarry now. Yeah. Whereas you didn't. You used what you got and pushed on further, and look where you are now. So it's really nice to see kind of someone that is driven, who has got success from that. Especially in the creative space, which...
well, success is relative, isn't it? You're never going to be rich working in the arts. So, it's not a great career choice if you want to have loads of money, but it's very fulfilling in other ways.
100%. And I guess with the fulfillment, with the community and working with the companies you work with, especially like giving chances to like Hubbub, that wouldn't get the chance if they were just their own entity, where you're kind of backing them in a sense.
Yeah, it's things like these kind of relationships, they're very reciprocal. We provide we provide a space for Hubbub to work and to develop their work as well, but they give us something which is that magical thing of having those creative people in the building, and they give you something each time they perform as well. That magic and that energy, and that's lovely as well. So, it's a very reciprocal relationship where we each give each other something, I guess, in that. And that's the lovely thing about the arts, I think, is that it's a nice industry to work for. We're not trying to destroy the world. We're trying to make it better, I think, with everything we do. So, and I think that's the important thing to hang on to.
Nice. To kind of round up, I've got this question for you, and it links nicely because you've created the Derbyland map. So, what is your gem of Derby? You can use Derbyshire as well if you'd like.
What is my gem of Derby?
So if you could take one person to one place in Derby, wherever you take
not
them.
Deda though.
You can do if you want.
I would obviously say Deda, but a gem of Derby, Derbyshire. I mean, it's interesting actually coming back after a long time away, like over 30 years. Obviously I visited family and things, but I think for me, I love Derbyshire as a county. I still paint, as a sort of side project at home and things. And the thing that I love about Derbyshire is the dry stone walls in the countryside. In fact, a couple of weeks ago I did a dry stone wall course, and I would recommend anyone listening to do a dry stone walling course for a weekend. It's fantastic. It's hard work, but but it was just being out there in the fields and building a dry stone wall. It's just absolutely beautiful as an experience. You just go, wow, what a life. If I could have another life, maybe I'd be a dry stone waller. And it's a bit late for me now. But anyway, dry stone walls and what they signify to me about Derbyshire is what I would say is my gem, is that they're so beautiful.
Nice.
Crisscrossing the green fields, and they're beautiful.
Perfect. I think that's kind of a nice one. Is no one focuses on a particular feature, if that makes sense. People will say a building, for example, you would have said Deda, but it's nice to focus on a feature of Derbyshire and something that people drive past or walk past and don't really acknowledge, and you've kind of taken that time due to your art to acknowledge that. And
I think if you do a dry stone wall course, you basically you learn, or you gain an understanding of how they're built, and just the sheer effort it's taken, and the hundreds of lives that have been involved in building them. Do you know? They're like 400 years old, some of them 500 years old. And when we dismantled the wall that we were working on this course, there were things that people had left in them. They'd left the bones of their lamb joint or something they'd been eating, and they just built it into the thing. It was like 400-year-old bone was in there, and they find pipes and they find different things, coins and stuff, that people just leave in there as like tokens, as the builder, as a sort of message, handing it down. And it's just that staggering thing about time and effort and lives long forgotten, is an amazing thing about those. A simple thing like a wall, and I think that's really beautiful. So
100%, and that is nice that kind of what you said, that they've got the history, and kind of people can see kind of what people have put in, and kind of get that piece of history from it as well, and maybe get some understanding of when it was built and kind of why they put in what they put in, and kind of it's nice to see that side and see the history side as well. Just to round up, of course, where can people find you or Deda as a whole?
Deda's on Chapel Street in Derby, so as you're coming from the north, you're coming down past the Five Lamps from Duffield. We're just as you enter the Cathedral Quarter on your right, you'll see a glimpse of a beautiful mural on the wall as you're turning into Chapel Street, and that is Deda. We're easy to find if you know where to look. I would say there's a website for Deda and Instagram sites, and obviously we've got Fest Day coming up, and that is going to be a biggie for us in the autumn season. And I'd just say, pop in. Don't be shy. Just come in. We've got a great cafe, some great food, a great selection of cakes and coffees and things. It's and as I say, hopefully, we will be upgrading that at some point over the next couple of years, and it will be the place to be.
There you go. So keep your kind of eyes peeled on that. But thank you for coming on.
No, thank you. Really enjoyed it.
And hopefully people will kind of pop in and hopefully attend Fest Day and everything that you've got coming up, and look out for the new Derbyland map when it comes out.
Cool.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Want to know what's happening within Derby's black community? Or perhaps you have a story of your own to share? Then look no further than Majatu, your one-stop source for local African and Caribbean news. With our digital news platform and quarterly print magazine, keep up to date on all of the latest in arts, entertainment, food, sports and more. Find us online at mojatu.com.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Peaking to Success podcast. If you enjoyed, please make sure you follow us on Spotify as well as Instagram, where you can see all the updates of who is coming up, as well as who has already been on the podcast, as well as Twitter, where there is information and interaction from me on there as well. Thank you.